Show!
What happened at the November Boone County School Board meeting last week? What are your kids eating in school? You don't want to miss this one. Did you know that there's 1.2 million not being utilized to increase the pay of our bus drivers? And our school district is gaslighting the community again on academic reporting. The alternative school needs were addressed, which is a long time coming. Did you know the teacher's salary schedule left off several positions and was not fully approved until now? And who's responsible for these misses? The school calendar was approved for 2024 through 25, so parents will be happy to hear that the 2 half-days have been removed due to parents calling and complaining because of having difficulty finding childcare.
Duh.
So here's some pictures of the great meals that the gentlemen and ladies work on every day. You see like
Great
the
meals.
there and the chicken and waffles.
Doritos, really?
Strive to stay current with what the food trends are out there so that the children can be exposed to that. The creation in the upper left there of the mummy cookie that they did, again, that's a cookie, but it's a whole grain cookie. And then Doritos, you know, there are some children that don't receive that at home, so we try to, through the food program, have them to receive some things like that. The great creations here of the whole grain donuts, they're for, and then I love what they did with the candy corn as the inspiration. They've got pineapple with mandarin oranges under there, and just a twist of how you can use fresh fruit to resemble like the candy corn there. Today, I don't have a picture, but we had a fall harvest parfait for breakfast at the schools, which was great. And then at Halloween here, the Boone County High School ladies decorated the little yogurt cups and even turned the yogurt a little green there for a little festivity. Here at Ignite, the Cheetos mac and cheese, one of the new crazes was we had the macaroni, but they could choose whether they wanted the really hot Cheetos and crush those up on the top for a topping on there. Then here's some pictures where we had the watermelon and the fresh fruits and vegetables that are offered. Today, Department of Agriculture met with our team at the Cooperative Extension Office on ways that we can get more local foods into our schools here, and that was really great. And actually, it was a small group, so the ladies got to meet with them and really discuss on ways we can help the farmers and help our children as well, and then promote so that kids know where is your food coming from. We offer a special burger of the month, and here's a picture of a pizza burger that we had. You know, the bento boxes, the protein boxes, those are popular. So here's a version that we have with the whole grain Uncrustables, Nutri-Grain bar, and some cheese coming from the peanut butter, but also protein with the cheese there. And the ladies and gentlemen try, as you can see, to make it look not institutional and try to get the color in that. And here's some sandwich presentation, cutting the sandwich in half. We all eat with our eyes, so presentation means a lot with those. And again, just the creativity, they amaze me with their creativity with how they can present the food and come up. Like these parfaits here are the cereal that we serve every day with the yogurt and just a different twist and putting it together for them there. We've offered now in the high school and the middle schools, Domino's Smart Slice Pizza. And again, that's giving opportunity to all students to enjoy food. I had a friend that went to college, and he's been very gracious in giving back, and he shared this story with me. He said, Stephanie, I didn't have the money to buy pizza or have pizza, and that has always stuck with me. But this pizza here is a whole grain crust, and it's made locally, hot and fresh, and they deliver here to our schools. It's a nice size portion, and the children and students have really enjoyed it, and the participation has went up with that. And it gets a lot of them to meet local businesses and that, but that's just a small part of what the ladies and gentlemen do every day. We thank you for your support and the students, and we always are up for new ideas and anything to make it better. I'm all about trying things, but it's thanks to the great team and working together.
So I just don't think an actual nutritionist is consulted when they're designing food plans. And I appreciate these ladies trying so hard with the resources they have. It's just Cleveland Clinic. Okay, I think everybody can agree that that's a reputable source. Literally says red dye 40 as a food additive that causes hyperactivity, including ADHD, and behavioral changes like irritability and depression. I've heard that it does worse than that, according to some other literature, but I'm just looking at all the sugar and food dyes that they're putting into the food to make it more presentable, whatever. That's great that you want kids to be excited, but we have an issue with mental health. We have an issue with obesity, and Kentucky's one of the worst out of all the states. And I just feel like we do have the resources, even if we bring in some parents who are actual nutritionists. I mean, the last time I took Vince up to his physician, she said he needed to avoid dairy for a virus to flush his system, that viruses hang on to dairy products as they go through the system. So you'll stay sicker longer. But just dietary changes and helping to educate the kids on how to eat properly and serving them actual nutritious foods, calorie, nutritious dense foods, and not Doritos. Like she said, some students don't get that at home. Well, could there be a reason why they're not getting it at home? Like,
Exactly.
don't buy that for my child.
Same. And this applesauce here, it comes in color form, like you said. Why does applesauce have to be blue or red or even yellow?
Because it's better that way, they say. The thing that's interesting is, Stacy, you hit on it too. And if you look at child obesity, we're in the top 10 in all of America for child obesity. And I would say, even if we look into that, dig a little further, we're probably in the top 5. Once again, I appreciate what these ladies are doing, using the resources they have that our district is giving them, trying to make this the best that they can. Let's not forget also the food resource office, whoever is in there, was asked to pay for Zonar out of their budget. And so
What?
we are, yeah, part of the Zonar, part of that fee comes out of food resources, because they said it would make it easier for them, because they have this little card that now the cards are going to be used for lunches. And so part of that comes out of the food resources. That was talked about when all the Zonar, that's where some of the money was going to come from. And so we're now taking away from kids' health to pay for
A tracking system.
a tracking system. And once again, it's our district continues to make decisions that takes away resources from men and women that are in this department, that are trying to do the very best they can to help with our kids' nutrition. And we're paying for tracking systems. And so once again, it's just, in my opinion, a poor decision on our district. My son comes home and I'll ask him what he had, and he'll say pretzel and cheese. Yeah, we have to do something.
Well, and it's a crucial part of their day. It's like a midday nutrition. Like, you're supposed to be fueling your body to get you through the day, not getting diabetes and ADHD at lunch and then heading on over to your classroom.
I'd be curious to know how kids' mental status is after lunch when they eat a school lunch. I mean, like before and after. That would be an interesting study.
I think we should talk to an actual nutritionist, because
Uh-huh.
I know my daughter, one of her best friends, her mom was a nutritionist, and just briefly had talked to me about some of the things that her daughter was allowed to eat and not allowed to eat, but a lot of it focused on the denseness of the nutrition in food items. Like, is there any actual quality food in Doritos? Is there nutrition in there? Are they getting vitamins and minerals? Because then if you're taking in empty calories, you're going to be hungry later, because your body was not actually fed off of that food. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not providing anything to your body. But yes,
Okay.
those ladies are wonderful for doing what they do. I don't want them to feel insulted. I just feel like we need actual nutritionist designing what food we're serving to kids throughout the day and teaching our kids.
Good evening. Just a real quick numbers update. I know you guys like to hear those each month. So just kind of go down the list as I typically do each month. So we currently have 6 teacher vacancies. That's down from 10 last month. 1 special ed teacher vacancy, down from 2 last month. Still looking for 3 paraeducators, 4 special ed paraeducators. That's down from 12 last month. 13 custodians, down from 16. 5 staff support, down from 6, and 4 cafeteria workers, down from 6. So last month I reported we had 56 vacancies. Happy to report we have 36 now.
What's the number of bus driver openings? I don't know if that was covered in the transportation.
Yeah, so there are kind of 2 different metrics we use for transportation. One is the number of drivers we're looking for to eliminate double runs, and then the actual number of allocations. The number of allocations they have are hovering right around 75 to 80 allocations that are unfilled. But to be sort of kind of fully staffed, for lack of a better phrase, to eliminate double runs, as Mr. McCarter said, right now it's about 19 drivers.
So what he just said is actually not true, in the sense of, one, it's confusing for everybody. Why do we have 2 metrics to talk about transportation? So the first way is to eliminate double runs. The second is allocations. And when he just said this, it made me really think unfilled allocation. So this is crazy. This just talks about wasted money once again, either wasted money or I don't understand. They say we only need 19 to 20 to fill the double runs. They have 75 to 80 allocations. Just so everybody understands what that means is, let's just do even numbers. So we'll take the 20 out of the 80. So we have 60 times 20,000. Let's say that's on a low end. That means we have $1.2 million sitting in a fund for bus driver allocations that's not being used.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the crazy thing about this. The allocations, every school gets an allocation for how many teachers. So they're given a bucket full of money for teachers, allocations of here's how much money you're going to get to spend on your teachers for that year. That's why sometimes for like assistant principals or counselors, they don't get an allocation for that. Where does that money come out of? It comes out of SBDM money. So a lot of SBDMs are paying for a half of a principal or a half of a counselor, whatever that looks like. When we budget it at the beginning of the year, we budgeted for 80 more bus drivers than what we currently have. So 80 allocations. So there's $1.2 million sitting in a bucket. But here's the interesting thing is if you realize what he said, but we can do it with 20. So we can do it with only 20 of those being filled. So the double runs don't happen. Which to me is, once again, this goes back from our district office planning and the people in there making decisions. Why in the world would we, if we know we're going to have a shortage of bus drivers, why in the world would we not say, okay, if we can do it on 20 more bus drivers, let's take that 1.2, let's start paying some bus drivers more money to keep them, because we have $1.2 million sitting there that we're not going to use.
Well, not to mention they've acknowledged the reason they're having staffing issues with the bus drivers is because they don't pay a good salary that's comparable to what Amazon will pay if you have a CDL. So they have to be competitive, but they're not wanting to do it. It's really weird.
And if you talk to someone at the district office, they'll tell you, well, really, we need more than 20. We really need 40, because realistically, that's just to fill all the positions. You still need substitutes, people call in sick, people have days off, whatever it is. You really need probably, I think I was told you need 40 bus drivers to fill it. But even if you need 40, that means you still have 40 allocations that are not going to be used. Now you have $800,000 that's sitting in a budget that you're not using. So really, there's a lot more money to use on these bus drivers than what we say there is.
Well, in public service announcement, if you need a job or are looking for a job, please apply to the Boone County schools.
And they're out there for everybody in the public to look at each of our schools or our district as a whole. So I'm just going to give you a big snapshot of our system and how we're progressing. So this year's accountability model, reflective of our May 2023 data, is different than the previous year. So that just know that there's an inclusion of change this year, which changes the accountability system. So we really can't look comparatively to the previous year to this year because of the addition of change. Our system has 6.
So she's saying that we don't have comparative data. The reason we don't have comparative data, this was strategically designed by your boy, Jason Glass, the education commissioner, and through the School Curriculum Assessment Accountability Council, also known as SCAC, which is there's governor appointments that participate on that council, but mostly KDE people. And they strategically designed an accountability system that moves away from comparative data to actually see how your schools and children are performing. But they've made it to where you're not actually able to use comparative data. So you can't say, hey, we were doing something that worked here, but then we've moved this direction and it's not working. They've designed the system to be that confusing where you can't compare data anymore.
3 of our levels and 2 are just for high school. So those 4 areas for everyone is reading and math is indicator 1, science, social studies, and writing is the second indicator. Third indicator is English learner progress. 4th indicator is quality in school climate and safety. And then the high school also has post-secondary readiness and graduation rate. Each of those 6 indicators all are weighted. So, and they're weighted differently across each of the levels. So knowing the only thing that's continuous across all 3 levels is our English learner progress, which is our students' access scores from one year to the next, and the quality of culture climate survey. So English learner is 5% of the weight, and the survey is 4% of the weight.
She talked about the climate survey as being an indicator of something. Those are the surveys they're giving the kids. I mean, teachers are taking them too, but do you see what I mean? Like, how is that really an indicator of how you're educating students?
Yours has a status score, which means their 2023 indicator score, and a change score, which is the previous year from this year's to get a change score. And all of those 4 or 6 added together gets the overall performance. Clear as mud, right? So some of the confusion or some misunderstandings when you look at how the change will impact how our schools do. This is a sample the state gave us where you could have 3 schools have the exact same indicator score, but will have a different color rating based on their change. So the status score, if you have an improvement, you're basically given a bonus of the improvement. So school A has a 61.2 indicator score, overall score, but they're marked as green. School B also has a 61.2 indicator score, but they're yellow because they declined from the previous year. And school C also has a 61.2. They declined, I'm sorry, the B maintained and is yellow, and then C declined and they're orange. But all 3 have the exact same indicator score. So the impact of change affected all the schools in the state of Kentucky, either positively or in a negative way with the ratings with change. So with change being added, we cannot look comparatively at our schools' overall indicator scores and rank those from year to year. The only thing that's comparable are proficiency. So our percent proficient distinguished in the content areas is the only thing that we can look year to year and have a true comparison. So here is the overall indicator score for our schools. Each level has different cut scores. So you can see those there, and those colors will tell you where we rank in the overall score in the picture. When you're in the school report card, there will not be numbers on that dial. You can drill down and download that if you want to look at that, but just knowing where the colors range, obviously you want to be above the red and moving towards your greens and your blues.
Krista, I had a question real quick. I just want to make sure I understand. So if it's change related, is it student A change from year 1 to year 2?
No, the school as a whole. So it's not growth.
Okay, so it's not individual student growth.
It's about the system.
It's cohort growth because we don't test it. Is it
It's not really cohort. It's just this, my reading and math from this year to this year, no matter who my kids are, either increased or decreased.
So you test 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And
Yeah, it's not cohort.
They just combine it. Is that data instructionally beneficial to anyone to know how to change?
For the
system?
accountability model, no, but we get individual students level scores for schools to say, hey, these students were struggling and maybe scored novice. What are we going to do this year to improve their proficiency? So that is, the accountability model is what we are, our federal requirements for the state to be able to show where schools are as a system and if growth or growing or students to be more proficient.
But we use individual data to actually guide instructional decisions. And, okay.
Yeah, I would say we use our interim assessments for that more than anything.
Yeah, we'll get into that at the end, but this is just how we are publicly reported to the state. Good questions, Maria. Thank you. And please stop me as we go through because I know it's a lot of gobbledygook. All right, so here's the overall dials that you'll see if you're on the school report card. So as
I don't know if you guys have ever checked out the school report cards in general, where you were able to kind of look at the data and assess how a school was doing, whether it was failing their students or they were being really successful in what they were doing. But she even described it as gobbledygook. The whole point of having a school report card is to have the public hold you accountable as well. This is where the public can access information to see what schools are good and what schools aren't good. So if you've been an unsuccessful school and you're not doing well, but you had a little bit of change, you're going to be marked really high. Find it ironic and strategically planned that they did this right outside of their plandemic. Right? So you shut the schools down. We know that children are having issues because they don't do well on the Chromebooks. They're not learning well that way. So now we're going to change how we even measure the schools and the standards to hide the fact that we've done a terrible disservice to our children.
are green and high schools are yellow, knowing the green in elementary is all of those 4 indicators as a whole, middle school all 4, and high school all 6 indicators all together to get an overall score. So some good news items to celebrate from our performances from our students. Number 1, we reduced our TSI schools from 14 to 8. Schools that exited TSI status were Ballyshannon, Burlington, Goodridge, Connor Middle, Ryle, and Steeplechase. Schools making significant increases for all students for reading and math, Goodridge and Steeplechase. For science and social studies, writing indicator, Ballyshannon, Goodridge, North Point, and Mann Elementary. So on that change dial, they showed significant increases. For students, schools making significant increases for students with disabilities. For the reading and math indicator, Connor Middle, Long Branch, Jones, and Steeplechase had a significant increase. For science, social studies, and writing, Ballyshannon and Connor Middle had significant increases.
I'm pretty sure they combined distinguished and proficient, where they used to be 2 different categories, which will help their numbers.
These are the slides that's on the school report card that shows where we are towards our state goals. The state set goals in 2019 for us to continually improve on. The blue triangles are actual performance. The green dots are where the state would like us to go. At the very top, our performance for elementary reading, we had 60% proficient distinguished, and our goal for this year is 64.3%. For middle school, we had 53% proficient distinguished in reading. Our goal for this year is 69.9% proficient distinguished.
Now remember, those are actually 2 different categories that
High
they've
school, we had
combined into
52%
one.
Proficient distinguished, and our goal this year is 61.7. High school, this is reflective of our 10th graders, last year's 10th graders. Our math proficiency, again, all of our levels are above state average. Elementary proficient distinguished was 59%. Our goal this year is 61.1. Middle school mathematics, for past year was 51% proficient distinguished. Our goal this year is 59.1%. For high school mathematics, 45% proficient distinguished. Our goal this year is 58.8.
Half the kids can't do math.
The next indicator of science, social studies, and combined writing, elementary had a high status and an increase. Middle school had a high status and an increase. And high school had a medium status and maintained. So elementary and middle were labeled green, high school was labeled yellow. Our science proficiency scores were all above the state average for each level. For elementary, Our students were 40% proficient distinguished. Our goal this year is 43.
When you look at this
Our students-
graph that they're showing and you see where they're headed with the goaling, and the green line is the goal. So by 2032, just under 75% distinguished, but we have to wait till 2032. That's where it's gold for.
41% proficient distinguished. Our goal this year is 40.2. High school, our proficient distinguished was 12, and our
Yikes.
goal this year is 50.3. They're based on 2019 on a test that's different now compared to what was 2019. They change all the time. Yep. So those were our pre-COVID numbers. Elementary, we had 53% proficient distinguished. Goal this year is 56.6. Middle school, 43% proficient distinguished. Goal is 67.8. High school, 43% proficient distinguished. Goal is 46.5. Also to note, our science and social studies, that the assessment type is much more inquiry-based and not the memorization of facts and being able to regurgitate that. So that's one factor of adjusting into the test, is we just assess students differently across all the content level, and how do we adjust our daily practice to help reflect, give students opportunities to practice. That is something that's being worked on as well. Writing proficiency, again, all of our levels are above state average. For elementary, we had 48% proficient distinguished. This is only reflective of our fifth graders. Our fifth graders are the only one that takes writing. In elementary, our goal this year is 55.3. Middle school, these are our eighth graders, 51% proficient distinguished, and our goal is 40. We are already above the end of the year goal at 41.8. High school, 41% proficient distinguished, and the goal this year is 65.9.
So hold on a second.
Indicator that we have,
That was writing in high school students, and you saw how low, that's less than half the kids are proficient and distinguished. Again, that category has been combined. And these are the kids that they started them on the Chromebooks. A lot of them, they started them on in fifth grade, and now they're in high school. It's not actually physical writing either. It's still writing on a computer.
I know.
But in the old days, you actually saw where kids were distinguished or whether they were proficient. You actually got to see how many students were in each category. And again, those were separate categories. And proficiency and distinguished were still used to measure how you were doing as a school total. But on the old metrics, these would have been failing schools. This would not have been okay on the old school report cards.
Why did they change it?
I think it was part of a strategic plan with the whole plandemic. And I think that they're trying to hide the learning loss.
Right.
They're trying to gaslight the community that we're not doing that bad. Our decisions that the governor made to shut down our schools was not that bad. Like, they're trying to hide the actual information from the public, because there are other testing that has measured students, ACT scores, NAEP testing. That's where you can actually see the learning loss. That's not going to be hidden from you.
End of the year goal at 41.8. High school, 41% proficient distinguished, and the goal this year is 65.9. The next indicator that we have dials on is our culture and climate survey. Elementary was yellow. We had a medium status and we maintained. Middle school was yellow, medium status, and maintained. Our high schools had a high green status, and our change was maintained.
Are these the panorama surveys that everybody's taking?
I know that when they talk about the climate, I know that the students are all taking a climate survey, and so are the teachers.
These are the questions on, do I have somebody at school that supports me? Are the rules in my
Yeah, this probably
survey?
is the panorama gel.
Actual survey questions are publicly reported. They're on the state's website. You can go and view those. But all of our students, grades 3 through 10th and 11th grade, take the survey as part of, that's the first test that they take during KSA assessments. The next indicator is our progress on English language proficiency. This is reflective of our access tests that we give our EL students, active EL students, every January and February. So it's their comparative data from year to year. So if a student doesn't have a previous year, they don't get dinged. So it's a kid who has a 2022 access score and a 2023 access score, and they get points for growing. So for our elementary schools, we have a blue status, was very high. We had an increase as a green status. Middle school, we had a low status and a decline. High school, a medium status, and we maintained. The second to last indicator is graduation indicator. Our students for high school, it's just your graduation rate, 5 and 4 year to combined. We had a medium status and an increase, so our level was green. And finally, post-secondary readiness indicator. These are our students either academic or career ready, and our high schools had a medium status, but we had an increase from the previous year, so it gave us a green labeling.
It's interesting to me. We started that whole thing off with, this really isn't an accountability. It's just to show progress. Did you all catch that at the very beginning of all of that?
Yeah.
But then now we're wanting to like say we're going to hold accountable to these measures or standards or whatever. It's just interesting to me because there's still no baseline for it. We still don't. The general population can look at that and just look at a number and go, oh, well, we're right there. But it doesn't give us anything to any type of standard to put it to, or where the general population can actually even understand it. Like she said, Stacy, what'd she call it?
Gobbledygook.
Yeah, Google, yeah, whatever that is. It's just, when somebody from the district office calls it that, what do you think parents and people in the community are calling it?
Well, is this where Jesse Parks said that he met with 6 parents that were paying for math tutors, and they were having to get tutoring outside of the school because in the math class, it was all videos and it was all Chromebook work. And then when they did the tutoring, it was more videos and the kids weren't learning. So the parents were upset because now they're paying additionally for outside tutoring to get their kids caught up.
All in favor of amending the new business items to add item C to discuss this proposal for an alternative education committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we will add that as item C for discussion.
He wants, for all of our alternative programs, he feels like they don't get the support they need from district office. I actually would agree with him. I don't think they kind of get pushed off to the side. They're going to say that somebody supports them, but he's been asking for 3 months. This gets back to what I think is important for everyone to understand is our board, and he even says it in his thing, our board is a reactive, not proactive. And I would even say that is true with our board, but I think it's even truer with our district. We are a reactive district, not a proactive district. And so what do? We see that in the last thing we just talked about. We look at our math grades and we see our math scores. We see that they're not doing well. So what do we do now? Stacy, exactly what you said. Now we're going to be in the classrooms. We're being reactive to our test scores, and instead of proactive, like you said, back in the day when nobody wanted to go in the classrooms to see exactly what was going on. This goes back to our leadership, and this is why I wanted to talk about this. We're coming up on Matt Turner's contract renewal. They have to let him know in the first 15 days of January if they're going to renew his contract. I just want to encourage everyone who is listening to this, including Michelle from the district office. If you're listening to this, you can go ahead and tell Matt Turner that I said this. We as parents have to hold our board accountable for being a reactive school district, because if we don't, then what's going to happen is we're going to continue to chase things instead of having a visionary leader to where we are a proactive school district. And I said this, I think, to both Jill and Stacy, and I've said this to a couple other people. I'm not quite sure what type of leader Matt Turner is, because you have wartime leaders and you have peacetime leaders. That's normally when you look at leadership, you have those two type of leaders. He's neither one of those. A peacetime leader is someone who's going to bring everyone together. Everyone's going to enjoy working for him. His culture in his office or in the district office, his culture in the schools, people are going to love it. If you talk to people in the community, as far as teachers, principals, they can't stand working for the guy. That's not what a peacetime leader is. A wartime leader, he's going after things. A wartime leader is in no way a reactive leader, which is what he is. It's somebody you want to go to war with. Well, I mean, goodness gracious, I don't think anybody wants to go to war with him. And so, just so people know, you need to reach out now to your school board members, whoever that is, and let them know we need a new leader in our district. Jesse points to that. Now, in my opinion, Jesse's doing it because he knows he's up for election in November, next November. And so he even says that in the next speech is, well, hey, I might not be here next year. He even says that about Mr. Turner. I want to put something that can last through me and through the superintendent, something that'll be here forever. So he does a great job at giving a campaign speech while he's up there. But we have to hold these board members accountable to make sure that we have a new leader in that seat that can take us to the next level, that can hold people accountable. We want accountability when it comes to academics, when it comes to finances, when it comes to food service. We want somebody who can actually do what we think they should be doing in the district level. That doesn't mean we're going to tell them what curriculum to be using. But at the same time, we do want to make sure the curriculum matches to what our community looks like. And, that's one of the biggest things I have against Matt is he just lets everybody do what they want, not realizing what our community truly looks like. He has a staff member, they're in the middle of a lawsuit right now with somebody on his executive staff. Okay. That's not a peacetime leader. That's not what he is. You don't have staff members suing you for the way you were treated because of things that you did not do. You're able to rally the troops. And if he didn't promote you, then most people don't like him. If he promoted you, then they'll support him. But he's promoted a lot of his good buddies at the same time. Maria Brown pushes into Jesse. She doesn't ever say anything is wrong with our district. So, she's going to disagree with him because he's actually, where I think what he's doing here is true. He has seen a need for our district and saying, hey, we need to fix this. Karen Bird and Maria kind of buck up. Now, Karen wants Jesse on the board. So she eventually kind of comes along and says, let's do this. But she knows she needs Jesse on the board. So if this thing didn't get through, then, this is just another peg in the board for Jesse to be able to campaign with.
How long are the contracts for the superintendents? When you hire a superintendent, 4 years is a long time when you're talking about children and their education. 4 years is 9th through 12th grade. 4 years is 1st through 5th grade. If we are going to continue with a bad superintendent who bullies people and has lawsuits put against him, and half the children can't read, write, or do math, 4 years is a long time to have someone in. It's a lot of learning loss for these kids. I don't think kids can afford it to take 4 years to get change.
Yeah, no, we can't. My kid would be a junior in high school, an 8th grader, a 5th grader. I mean, like you said, I have a preschooler who would be in the 3rd grade where all their basic learning comes through. And the board put a non-qualified person in that position. Now, the board has changed. So since then, we now have I think 3 new board members. Jesse wasn't on the board when Mr. Turner became the superintendent. Carolyn wasn't, Cindy wasn't, but Karen and Maria both were. And we put in a person who only thing they were was a high school principal to lead the 3rd largest school district in the state. That's not his fault. That's the board's fault for putting somebody who's not qualified because the last chairman of the board was friends with Matt Turner and their kids went to Ryle, and we've now padded his retirement fund, and at the cost of our district really becoming a laughingstock across the state for a lot of the decisions that he's made.
Item A, Mr. Turner, revision to the 23-24 salary schedules.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I recommend the board to approve the recommended action new business item A, the revision to the 2023-24 salary schedule.
I have a recommendation for approval of the revision. Do I have a motion? Motion, Mr. Parks, second, Mrs. Wolf. Is there any information particularly you wish to share, Mr. Turner?
I shared with the board via email just a quick summary of this with the board's approval of salary schedules typically always occurs in June of the school year, and it happened this school year that it was approved. There was an omission onto the salary schedules, essentially just omission onto the paper, to the form that was approved by the board. The salary schedules were not missed in terms of payroll. Those were programmed to our system as normal. The omission was simply just the paperwork that was given to the board. So it was on the management and supervisors under the classified management and supervisor salary schedule. It was just the third column for employees in those two areas, management supervisors that have an associate's degree. And so it completely has that list of the salary scale based on the step experience. We've always had this in our salary schedule. When essentially the paperwork came to the board in June, those two columns were not included on the paperwork. That was an unfortunate omission on our part, but we want to make sure that we be very transparent here and bring it to the board now for their official approval of the salary schedule with those included. Salaries have not been affected at all for any of our employees with this. This is unfortunately just an omission on this paperwork provided to the board back in June.
What happened is they left off a piece of the salary schedule back in June. We just now caught it, or whenever they caught it. I don't know why they decided to present it at this board. We've been paying those positions that he just talked about without it being voted on. Once again, it goes back to his leadership. I don't even know if that's legal. I don't know if you can actually do that. Now, I think we probably do that a lot as a district. We vote on things have already been purchased. In fact, I know we do that. The board doesn't seem to think that it's a problem. They just go ahead and vote on it instead of asking questions. Why was it left out? Why didn't we have this before? Why did we just now catch it? Hey, attorney Olivia, can we get in trouble for this? What can happen? Notice they just go ahead and vote on it and nothing's ever said. And
Why is he not held accountable? Isn't that's on him?
Yeah, that's a great point. That's what I mean is this goes back to his leadership. He's the one that's presenting it. I'm sure it wasn't him who put it together. I'm sure it was somebody else in his office, but then they should be held accountable. He admits it, that it was an omission on their part. But we just vote on it and move on. So how many other things do they do that to? Because they know the board is not going to hold him accountable. It's once again, his poor leadership.
You're welcome.